Hello, everyone. Welcome to this final part of a series of 3 episodes um, focusing on um, the outlook on highly educated women and highly skilled women deciding to combine family and their careers and professions, and those who decided no, they can't carry it all, they really to focus on family. And now we are looking at the third aspect, those who do not want families or marriage, but they want to focus on their careers. The reason why I decided to split that and make them clear that way, not that, not to really belabor the time, because it might be long to put them all under one bucket. But to make it easier for whichever category everybody wants to actually review and be able to make their decisions if they choose to, make it will be easier. So today we are looking at episode 33 of series 3 of Ndisco's Village Meeting podcast, which is, as we continue to remind ourselves, is based on Africa, society, and culture. But these are some topics that are beyond particular culture, that is like global. The idea of women and workforce, women and taking care of the family, women and marriage, women and motherhood, and women who decided none of this is for them. Um, they are part of what happens in our society. They're in the mainstream. And like I shared earlier, these come about from questions and concerns by our young um, adults, females, who are some of them at crossroads, really, of culture, what culture thinks and what the environment makes them think, whether they are at the homestead or in diaspora. Um, but it's a concern, it's a deal, it's something that they are thinking about, despite everything else. So, again, the discussions of the young ones asking which way to go. Now, you guys sent us to school, and some of us borrowed a lot of money, and you wanted us to touch the sky, and we are touching the sky. And now we come out, we got to be able to get some, employment to pay off some of the loans we borrowed or help the family the way they wanted us to do to start with. But at this time, society is also pulling them, whichever way the expectation calls. So it's a tug of war, it's a push and pull, and some of them really are at a loss of what they need to do to fulfill their own personal goal and identity, and as well fulfill the societal expectation and identity. And not to talk about the parental ones, the sibling ones, and everybody else. So I'm hoping that parents could share this with their children, those are of the ripe age of marriage or already there, um, and also to anybody else. So it doesn't stop them from doing. There's a whole lot of research out there. What I do is I pull together a kind of a summary so that these young ones who are busy with whatever they are doing can just have a one-stop shop, just look and get a summary. And if they want to dig in some more, they please feel free to do that. And I encourage everybody to do that. I try to stay with facts, and my opinion, personal ones may not matter, but I could give you my experience as an example. And that's what I try to do. But in no way am I asking you to do what I'm asking you or telling you to do, because I don't tell you to do. And the young ones who talk to me from time to time, they know Auntie as somebody who asks a lot of questions. And by asking those questions, and by them giving the responses, the light bulb goes off, and they're like, aha, the aha moment happens, and they find their own answers. So I don't give them answers, and they know that. So from all these podcast aspects, hopefully they will learn one or two things and say, oh, okay, let me go look deeper into this. And I am always open to them when they have a comeback question. Like, you said this, but where can I find this? Or what do you mean by this? I'll make time. It may not be immediate because of my plate over on it, but I will always make time for the young ones. So without much ado, um, let's see if we can show you what the topic is for this one. Um, so the first one we talked about, like I said, was for those who are highly educated and skilled women who uh, decided to pursue their careers or professions, as well as they are married and they are taking care of that also having children and they are bouncing it all. Then we talked about those who are highly skilled and educated who decided no, they don't want to pursue their careers, and so they stay at home and do everything else. And now this is a third category. The highly educated and skilled women who have decided not to get married and not have children, but they have decided to pursue their careers. Okay. So they are deep into their professions and they are deep into everything else, but they are putting off marriages. Some of them never say never. Some of them are putting off having children. They never say never. Some of them have said never, never to both. And these are the ones I'm like, why? And they give but then some of them change their minds. Um, some of them have decided no, they don't need marriages because of what they see around them happening. So they are beginning to go into surrogacy. They beginning to adopt. At least they have their own children without doing much more else. But they still have to take care of them if that's the route they want to take. But strictly, this one now, the topic is they don't have children. They plan to have children in the next future, near future, sorry. And they're not married and they're saying they're not getting married in the near future, but they want to just develop their careers till they are ready to do whatever thing. So that's the category we are talking about today. So having said that, let's look at what is it that make them go. Remember, these are groups of people who, despite all they have, they they remain single and they decide to focus on their professional ambitions. That's what I call it. And this will yield, or they normally yield for them, a very powerful sense of self determination and self fulfillment. Um, the goals they set for themselves, and also the societal pressures. So it's a whole lot going on them. And it takes really those of them that have backbones and have all the confidence in the world and um, tune off side noises to be in that category. So that's but that's let's look at why do they do that? You know, what are their triumphs? Why did they think about that? So most some of them and the literature out there, and some of them verbally have voiced that this is what they want to do to assume maximum financial autonomy. That's their number one. They want that money that they're making to be theirs and theirs alone. So they don't want to ask anybody for money for their 200,000 naira wig or 200,000, $200 wig. They don't want to ask anybody for money for vacation. They go destinations on their own funding and all that. They grow on their jobs. They push for that promotion. They don't have any person to care for at home, so they can stay late and work late. Um, they can travel whenever at a whim without thinking twice. They don't have to answer to anyone. So there's a whole lot. And because all this is leading to them making all the money in the world, and they don't have all, that too many responsibilities to look at, and that gives them that autonomy to do and use how much or whichever way they want to. The second aspect of that is what we call remember when we talked about the motherhood penalty? Um, if you are in the office, you are guilty as to, well, the word guilty, what's happening with the children, um, which the second group that decide to stay at home, they don't have that, too much of motherhood penalty because they are there. But this group avoids the motherhood penalty completely because they are not mothers. They are not responsible for anybody. So if anybody is talking about, oh, your child, there's no food or nobody has picked them up from daycare or the missing soccer game or whatever, they don't know what that is. Okay, so that's what some of them like they enjoy that. Um, the agility with their professional and geographic locations. These are the people that will, when they say wants to volunteer to go to another country to manage temporarily and then come back, they volunteer faster than anybody else. Who wants to relocate the job, they are ready to go that, unlike the other two groups who already have families, whether they come to the office, or especially the ones who are career minded still with the family. They cannot just get up and travel. So, but this group with no responsibility of family or marriage or children, um, they can relocate anytime, they can live anywhere, they can travel anytime. So that agility or ability to do that is one of their triumphs. The other aspect is of the travel is the intellectual. Um, they are dedicated. The intellectual aspect and the creative aspect is there. Remember that the ones that are also professional but also have families and children, they may have limited time to really start thinking outside. But the moment they finish their job, they're thinking, okay, what's it for dinner? But this group, at most, they go pick up food or call Uber to the Uber Eats to send them food. But this gives them all the time in the world to think creatively, and they are the ones that are looked upon for promotions and all that because they are the innovative minds. They have that dedication to do their job extremely well, invoking their mental energy and everything else. So they are getting job done, unlike those people who are managing families, managing children, and managing the job. But they also have challenges. Apart from having all that triumphs of maximum financial autonomy, they can make their money and keep it, and they don't have to pay taxes for families. Whatever they have, they keep, and all that. They're not guilty when it comes to um, motherhood. Some of all of us who are mothers, we know all that guilt was okay. You didn't give the best to one thing, and you're not focused. You're giving that. Even the stay-at-home moms, sometimes they are guilty of not giving the best, even if they are doing so much for the family. So that's what this group avoids. They can go anywhere and fly anywhere, but um, that availability that we talked about, when they can fly anywhere and go anywhere, also turns against them. So one of their challenges is that availability bias, they are always there. So the company or whatever their profession or their careers will always like, let's go. And they don't have excuses. Remember, the first one, if you are working and they will look at you twice before they send you to do certain things because of your family. But with this group, nothing is holding anybody back to say to them, hey, you're gonna go do this. So they sometimes they are assigned things they do, and they don't have any excuses to say no, I'm not going or I'm not doing. So that's one aspect that counts against that the choice that they've made. Um, the other one is a persistent. Let's use the word. It never stops. Persistent social stigma. Everybody is like, are you sane? Why are you not married? Why are you not? The society is seeing you as incomplete. See, the society says somebody complete as, okay, you finish school, then you're married, then you have children, da, 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 da. So when you don't accomplish all that, when all that you finish your education, you're highly, or you have a career, or you have a skill. Remember when I said that being highly educated might be within the walls of the schools, but then the skills you have, you are a designer, you are a tailor, you are what? That's also an accomplishment. And when you have reached those goals and you don't have a child, or you don't have a spouse, or you're not married and all that, society starts looking at you as not complete or incomplete, and which is not fair, but it is what it is. I said it the other day, it is what it is. You cannot turn the society away from what they have called their own norm. Okay. For whatever reasons, it's hard to change. Some societies within the world don't see the same way some others do, but um, some, especially in the African region, that I keep talking about most of the time, we still are persistent in calling certain way of life incomplete because it doesn't suit what has been. But nobody sees the reasons for um, or the raison d'etre of things happening, which is why sometimes we say we need to really go back and think outside the box. Okay, so this persistent social um, stigma um, is a challenge for this group that decided they want to focus on their careers, they don't want to do anything else and to work. They don't want families and all that. So the society is looking at one. And then it becomes when when they look at them, um, it's not pleasant to this group at all. There is also the what they call midlife social network that is missing. So if they don't have um, spouses and they don't have children, um, they have been tagged as not having what they call a social network, even if they have friends, okay, even if they have siblings. So again, that's what society is saying. But there could be truth in that, what the society is thinking, because at midlife, these people may not have um, um, uh, anybody support, help, or support for just in case they get sick, or they reach an age where they can't do anything for themselves, or they have family, aging parents that they can handle by themselves. Do they have anybody else around them? These are normally support that come from either spouses or children. But when this person doesn't have either, then there comes the question of what happens, you know. Um, the sole safety net is around what they call the sole safety net. This person is alone by themselves. Um, who do they fall back to? Who helps them? They, what else do they know except for their friends? What if they get to that a certain age where they cannot take care of themselves? What happens? So, and especially if you live in a region where the government is not helping to do that, because we know that some regions of the world, the government helps someone who is by themselves getting old and not have children or any other support. But, okay. So, having looked at all that, the question again is talking to the young ones, think about this before you get in there, if it is one of them. I talk to a lot of them to say, hey, don't say you're not getting married because of the experiences you see around you. Don't say that you can, start thinking about children. We want you to do it in the order of getting married and then having children. But if it push comes to shove for those of them who don't, there are children who need adoption out there. Nobody says you have to, like have one from your womb most of the time, or, there are surrogacy and all that. But have that, um, if you can get off that, so what they call the solo safety um, um, net. That would be cool. Um, Again, this is what you discuss. Again, this is where you don't have somebody else to discuss with, but you have people around you. And this is why I'm doing this. Think about, and by the time you go through the triumph and go through the challenges, is that what you really want as a young one? You think about that. So, but if you decide these are the things you want to do, you got to think about coping mechanism. Okay. One of the coping mechanisms that was mentioned out there by the schools of thought says, protect your personal time. So remember when they were looking at you from one of the challenges as you are available because you don't have family, I'm sorry, you don't have a spouse, you don't have children, so you're available all the time. Protect that, okay? Set the boundaries. Even if you don't have all these and they think you're available all the time, set the boundaries. And there are legal actions, there are work policies that support that. Okay? Um, Construct a family. That's another one to cope. What I mean by constructing a family or building a family is build a network. Your peer groups, your extended family groups, um, uh, your community group, build them or join one. Be part of a group that will play all these other roles for you if push comes to shove. Okay. And the next one is, without fail, secure legal and healthcare policies. We've seen young ones who they're making all this money, but they forget that health matters. They don't have health insurance for whatever reasons, I don't know. Some of them, you talk about life insurance, they're like, what are you talking about? They think they will live forever. No, okay. At least for the sake of people you are leaving behind. That's why we do that. So that they could at least help with burial expenses and all that. We're not saying anybody's going to die today and tomorrow, but you never know. So secure those, especially when you don't have a spouse or children. You are by yourself. In case you have other people you are responsible for, especially your parents. So secure a legal aspect. If you, for example, were to get into, health people, like I call it, um, who, well, you're in a state where you can't even make decisions for yourself. Who can you give that legal authority to decide what to do to you or never not to do to you, what happens to your stuff and all that. So Nobody says you cannot pursue your career or your profession without marrying or having children, but you got to put things in place in case. Okay. So um, I think I've covered um, again the most aspects that could be covered. Like I said again, the information highway is full out there for you to go and find what else that you need to know if you decide on any of these aspects you want to embark on as you go, as you get further. For the older adults that are already in the system of work, no work, it's time to sit down also and talk about it. Um, I know one of the things I'm going to say it anyways is that the ego of especially our African men, and not all of them, some of them, they believe in this tradition of, why a woman sits at home. But some of them are beginning to understand that it takes two paychecks most of the time to do that, to go. So encourage, your wife or your spouse to go back to school and get some kind of skills. And that would be nice. But if at the end, whatever income this person is going to get is not going to be enough, think about the other aspects that we're talking about. Stay at home. It's not just for moms. We also have it for men who throw their ego aside. What people will say. Again, the society puts this pressure on us, like, or they say your wife is going to work and you're at home. It doesn't matter. Somebody has to build, raise these kids. What if the wife is no longer, on earth, or if the man is no longer on earth? So it takes two heads to have all this put together. I think I've exhausted what I want to say about all these topics. Um, we're going to go back to the drawing board and see what will help us. Um, because all these impacted on the finance, these are impacted on self-accomplishments, these are impacted on making the home in a good one, and a whole lot more. So it's an important topic. So thank you for listening again. Please subscribe, please subscribe, please subscribe, and share with everybody else. Um, Next time, we'll talk about another topic of interest. I got a lot more. Okay, this is your hostess, Dr. Marcellina Ndidi, bidding you farewell and thanking you so much for joining me.